Hi students. The business of a novelist is to create a world, and the mark of the master is external abundance. He gives you lots of life. The test of life in its characters is that they go on living outside the book, and Charles Dickens has succeeded in that. Hard Times may be classed as a moral fable where intention is peculiarly insistent, so that the representative significance of everything in the fable is immediately apparent as we read. Intention might seem to be insistent enough in the opening of Hard Times, in that scene in Mr. Gradgrind's school. But then intention is often very insistent in Dickens, without its being taken up in any inclusive significance that informs and organizes a coherent whole. Dickensian vitality is in its varied characteristic modes, which have the more force because they are free of any redundance. The creative exuberance is controlled by a profound inspiration. Ordinarily, Dickens' criticism of the world he lives in are casual and incidental, but in Hard Times he is, for once, possessed by comprehensive vision, one in which the inhumanities of Victorian civilization are seen or as fostered and sanctioned by a hard philosophy, the aggressive formulation of an inhuman spirit. Mr. Gradgrind's utilitarianism is a theory sincerely held, and there is intellectual disinterestedness in its application on the part of Mr. Gradgrind. Bounderby, instead, is Victorian rugged individualism in its grossest and most intransigent form. Concerned with nothing but self-assertion and power, he has no interest in ideals or ideas except the idea of being the completely self-made man. Another protagonist, instead, Cissy Jupe, and her incapacity to acquire this kind of fact, her inaptness for education, is manifest to us as a parcel of her sovereign and indefeasible humanity. In Hard Times, irony cooperates in a truly dramatic and profoundly poetic whole. Cissy Jupe, in fact, has been established in a potently symbolic role. Here, the moral and spiritual differences are rendered in terms of sensation, so that the symbolic intention emerges out of metaphor and the vivid evocation of the concrete. Cissy's symbolic significance is bound up with that of the circus horse riding, where human kindness is very insistently associated with vitality. The horse riding, frowned upon as frivolous and wasteful by Gradgrind, and malignantly scorned by Bounderby, brings the machine hands of Coketown what they are starved of. It brings them art and the spectacle of a triumphant activity. In investing in a travelling circus with this kind of symbolic value, Dickens expresses a profound reaction to industrialism than might have been expected of him. The virtues and the qualities that Dickens prizes do indeed exist, as it is necessary for his critique of the utilitarianism and industrialism, and for his creative purpose to evoke them vividly. But an extraordinary flexibility can be seen in the dialogues. To the question how the reconciling is done, the answer can be given by pointing to the astonishing and irresistible richness of life that characterizes the book everywhere. Out of such prose, a great variety of presentations can rise congenially with equal vividness. Dickens writes with the poetic force of evocation, registering with the responsiveness of a genius of a verbal expression what he so sharply sees and feels. At the opening of the book, Cissy Jupe establishes the essential distinction between Gradgrind and Bounderby. In fact, Gradgrind, by taking her home, shows himself capable of human feelings. Instead, Bounderby remains the blustering egotist and corresponds in character to the collapse of his marriage. The confutation of utilitarianism by life is conducted with great subtlety, and the inadequacy of calculus is beautifully exposed when he brings it to bear on the problem of marriage in the scene with his eldest daughter, Louisa. Dickens is a master of his chosen art, and his mastery shows itself in the way in which he moves between less direct forms of the dramatic and the direct rendering of the speech.